Okay, good morning, everyone. I am very excited to be up here today to talk to you about something that my team and myself have been very passionate to work on, which is organ transplants. But before I start, I would like to share with you a personal story that personally impacted me and changed the way I see things and the way I worked with organ transplants. 4 years ago, when I was doing my rotations as a medical student in heart surgery, we had an adorable little girl who came for a follow-up session after surgery, after heart surgery. She had basically a rare disease where she had two chambers in her heart communicating with each other, and she needed to have it fixed. So she got it fixed, and then at some point, a few years after, her heart got tired, and she needed actually to have a real transplant. So I was there that very first day for that consult, and I will never forget the reaction in the patient's face when the surgeons announced basically that their little daughter had needed a transplant. So they were devastated. They were faced with uncertainty. They were faced with a lot of stress. And fortunately, she was able to get a transplant. She was able to survive, and she's doing very well. And actually, there are a lot of people who are lucky to find organs and survive, but there are also a lot of unlucky people, a lot of unlucky children who die waiting for transplants. And the reason is because there is an exponential increase in the number of people who are enrolled in the waiting list waiting. And if you see the numbers, there are actually 3 more times people in waiting lists than the number who are registered as donors. So there's a big gap. And in fact, we've tweaked a little bit the numbers and played with the numbers, and we realized actually the number of people that can be saved with organ transplants. 900,000 people, almost 1 million people that can be saved through organ transplants. That's 35% of US national death rate. That's the number of people that can be saved through organ transplants. And it's not only a domestic problem, it is a global problem. Europe faced the same challenge. Africa and Asia have more logistical problems, and the WHO, the World Health Organization, has estimated that 10% of the needs are actually met. So 90% are not met of the needs. So there are a lot of cases that I can talk of. I highlight the case of Sonia, who happens to be a teenager from the UK. She had a curable cancer, but because of chemotherapy, her ovaries were affected, and she actually cannot have children. So there are a lot of cases like that, and there are also fortunate cases where people find organs. They are able to get a transplant, but they need to cope with the number of pills that they have to take every day. They have to deal with the complexity of tweaking their immune system, the complexity of thinking for another organ in the next 5 to 10 years. There's a lot of things going on for them. And all of these people actually share the same problem, but also have the same need, all of those cases. And what we have thought of is basically, as a solution, is to create organ banks. Organ banks everywhere, in California, New York, Asia, Europe, everywhere when you can have your own organs. Think of a world where you can grow a heart, you can grow your own kidney, your own liver from your own stem cells, and have it backed in California, in New York, in Europe, and Asia. Wherever you are, if something happens to you, you will always have your own organ to be transplanted into you. Imagine yourself when you're 80 years old and you have your 25-year-old heart implanted into you. That's our vision. So we're actually achieving longevity. So that's basically the case. But it's a whole new set of solution. It's a whole new set of a vision that we have. Think of people like firefighters, soldiers who go in the field and have their own organs ready to be transplanted in case they get injured. Remember that chart of the waiting list? Imagine that you create banks where you will have more supply than need. That chart is going down. So we will achieve abundance as well. There is a lot of set of solutions that you can look into. We're even taking the solution to a whole new level where we can tackle untreatable diseases. Chronic diseases will just throw your liver to throw it and implant you with a whole new one that is fully functional and on the top of achieving longevity. So what we're doing concretely is to accelerate the development of technologies for long-term organ banking and organ storage, I would say. And the way we're doing it is through what we call an incentive prize. So it's an X prize type of competition where we grant a multi-million prize to any institution, individual that successfully demonstrates long-term storage of an organ and also human-sized organ, of course, with demonstration of survivability and function. And there's a lot of value to that, attracting investment, creating new markets, attracting talent, etc. There are a lot of proofs from history, from Napoleon to Lindbergh, crossing the sea. So there are a lot of examples in history. But under the owl of the prize, what we're doing also is to have what we call the Organ Preservation Alliance, or institute. We're creating an institute where we basically bring together scientists, individuals who are passionate about the topic, who are world experts in the topic, bring them all together, sit as teams and create content, share their concerns, talk about the issue and create content either through symposia, conferences, etc., etc. We'll also have Grand Challenge Symposia, we'll have hackathon sessions and targeted grants. So we bring together all those experts, but we embrace them also with an ecosystem where they will find investors, angels, VCs, world coalitions of medical associations, government institutions, non-governmental institutions that will be supporting them. And we're doing this in partnership with the Institute of Competition Sciences. They already previously worked with XPRIZE and NASA. We're doing this in partnership with New Oregon and SU Labs. 2 years ago, I was sitting in this very same classroom learning about exponentials. A year prior to that, I was at FutureMed, also learning about exponentials in healthcare. And on the top of the content and the knowledge that you get from the program, you also develop very special relationships with your classmates. I can see fellow classmates here from GSP 12. And on the top of those relationships with the classmates, the faculty, the whole network, SU brings together very passionate people to work together and tackle those grand challenges. And this is what happened with GSP 12. We have world experts, hedge fund managers, consultants, policymakers, surgeons, and bioengineers who are sitting on the same table trying to tackle this problem. So concretely, what we're asking from you is we'll be very welcoming feedback, but also if you know any interested people who are scientists, non-scientists, corporate people who are interested in getting on board, you are more than welcome to save millions of lives. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Now let's see if you have any questions. Yes, sir. Phillips.
I would guess that the growth of organs is the real answer here to get people can grow an artificial.
Correct. I didn't want to get into the technology part. I just try to stay high level. But the technology mostly now is more mechanical. We're talking about cryopreservation. So we're focusing a lot on bringing on board a lot of cryobiologists. We're not talking about cryonicists, but we're cryobiologists. It's a real science. We have world experts who are here as advisors working with us. We already locked very top scientists actually who are on board with us. Yeah, it's more of a technology problem than yeah.
We have another question here. Mike's coming to you.
In order to increase the number of organs that are being donated, we thought of maybe lobbying for, like myself, in my driver license it says organ donor. But I would think that if you're an organ donor, you should be first in line, as opposed to if you elect not to be up as an organ donor, I think you should be last in line. I talked to my friends, and it's like, hey, why don't you cross off that on your driver license? He's like, oh, then I go to the hospital and the U.S. is all profit, and they're going to kill you and harvest your organs and sell them. So I think, the ones that have elected to cross that off should be first in line. Any comment? You want to lobby some governments? Or?
I think we're open about that in the sense that my own personal belief as a doctor is that we will be able to support organ engineering and organ growing in the sense that we might probably disrupt the sense of saying that I'm an organ donor. You can just simply grow your own organs and have them backed up in a bank. So it's a whole lateral idea. It's not from being or not being a donor.
Okay.
One more question. We have one in the front here. Mike's coming to you. These guys are fast. They move fast. They run. We want to see more running.
Do you necessarily need the bank portion of it? As the acceleration of the organ growth happens, wouldn't it be more of an on-demand rather than growing, say, an entire heart and having it waiting just in case?
It's a very good question. We haven't thought of getting rid of the bank portion, and I think it's a crucial part of the whole system and the whole framework that we have. But it's a point that we could potentially consider, yes. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Okay, with that, let's thank Zak.